Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another day, another episode of 30NSG. Sorry, I lost my brain thought there for a second. Brain thought. That's an actual verbiage. I'm doing great this morning. On today's show, we're going to be talking about Sony investing $2.1 billion in gaming R&D. We're going to talk about 7 years after the big on Kickstarter, Battalion 1944 developers are offering full refunds for everybody. And we're also going to be talking about Xbox deal could be closing soon and Activision Blizzard to leave stock exchange. So these are the three main stories we're talking about today. We'll talk about other stuff as well. If you guys like the content that we produce here, please make sure you hit that like button for each and every single one of the videos that you watch. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, you can become a subscriber. And if you'd like to go above and beyond that, you become a member as little as $5. Let me go to chat and see what you guys are saying this morning. Morning, Styles. What's going on, Travis? What's going on, Dave Rose? Dabstick. Good morning, Jesse Mack. How you guys doing this morning? All right. So let's start off. Let's start off with the Xbox. Could be closing soon. Oh, I forgot to change the. I'm running late. This is what happens when you're a stay-at-home dad and you're taking care of your kids and stuff. Come on now. There we go. Hopefully it doesn't crash on me. There we go. All right. And voila. Xbox deal could be closing soon. Activision Blizzard to leave stock exchange. Now, I am not giving stock advice in any way, shape, or form for this. I'm just reading an article, and you do what you want with your stocks. The Call of Duty Candy Crush publisher is expected to leave the NASDAQ 100 stock index on July 17th. The Microsoft announced it would be requiring Activision Blizzard King, the publisher behind gaming powerhouse franchise Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Diablo, Candy Crush, in January of 2022. The deal has undergone significant legal scrutiny from regulatory bodies from 39 countries having approved the deal. And the UK CMA has been only country to reject the acquisition. The FTC in the US filed preliminary injunction to stop the acquisition from closing, but as it was denied, and the appeal decision has been filed by the FTC. So according to the press release on the Global News Wire, NASDAQ announced that the Trade Desk, Inc. would be joining the NASDAQ 100 index as a replacement for Activision Blizzard, Inc. Now, with the Activision Blizzard King deal set to be removed from the listing prior to the market opening on Monday, July 17th, Activision Blizzard removal from the NASDAQ 100 index could be seen as a company being prepared to close the deal to merge with Xbox. Now, the announcement for Activision Blizzard King exits from the stock exchange comes fresh on the heels of the FTC filing an appeal on Judge Jacqueline Quarles' refusal to issue a preliminary injunction to stop the acquisition from closing. Now, a temporary restraining order, the TRO, is currently holding a deal and while also proceeding underway, but the TRO is also set to expire on Friday. With the TRO on that way, the only thing hindering Microsoft and Activision Blizzard from completing the acquisition is the decision regarding the appeal from the Ninth Circuit Court and the UK Competition and the Markets Authority. Now, regarding the FTC's appeal, the Vice Chair President of Microsoft, Brad Smith, said this to say, the district court's ruling makes it crystal clear that the acquisition is good for both competition and consumers, and we're disappointed that the FTC is continuing to pursue this and becoming a demonstrably weak case. It's also further to effort the detail, the ability to move forward. Meanwhile, the interview with CNBC, Bobby Kotick has expressed his feelings as the appeal of the ruling of the FTC would be wasting taxpayers' money. The motion to remove Activision Blizzard from the stock exchange could signal a leadership from Microsoft and Activision Blizzard both feel confident enough that the Ninth Circuit Court will not see fit for the overrule of Judge Quarles and the grant of the FTC injunction. Thus, the two corporations may be making early moves necessary to close the deal as soon as the TRO expires. The closure will also be spite of the rejection of the deal of the CMA, however. Now, following the Judge Quarles' refusal to grant the FTC injunction, both the CMA and Microsoft agreed to stay their appeals with the UK tribunal and also attempt to settle out of court. Now, Microsoft has also agreed to small virtues of most likely in the cloud gaming sector. The CMA expressed concerns. In order to push the deal through, the CMA has to say that such moves would require regulatory process to start the beginning with the fresh investigation. So what does this mean for people that have the stocks? So basically what's happening, let me find some here. Activision stock is being delisted, basically. In preparation for the proposed acquisition by Microsoft, Blizzard will be delisting from NASDAQ Stock Exchange. Now, you could keep your stock. It'll be a little harder to sell, I would think, because it's no longer on the 100. You would still get your payout, or I believe, and don't quote me because I'm not a stock exchange master here, but because they're being delisted, you could keep your stocks with that company, and then they would get merged in for the shares. So whatever shares you had, so if it's at $90, and I think Microsoft's somewhere up in the 300s, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Microsoft's stock price right now is $340.10. So if you had stock in Activision, you could either sell it before it gets delisted, which would be like today or tomorrow, before Monday opens up. And then once it's gone, you can still have the price for what it is, but no one's going to want to buy it because it's no longer a tradable stock. So you can keep it, and then it would get merged into Microsoft. So basically, it would be 3 point whatever. Each share of Activision stock would be merged into Microsoft stock once the deal goes through. So again, not an expert at stocks, but I would definitely check in to see if you do have stocks in Activision at all, to make a phone call and find out what the best option is for you to keep it or to sell it. Let's see what you guys are saying. Travis says, oh, maybe because I hate consolidation. Oh, wait, what does he say up here? 30. Love how everyone assumes if you're against the Xbox deal, it's because you hate Xbox. Maybe it's because I think Activision's a third-rate company charging a third-rate price. Yeah, but hating Activision because they're being bought by another company, you can still hate Activision, but why would you hate Microsoft because of what they're charging Microsoft? You know what I mean? Or maybe because I hate consolidation, or maybe it's because I hate that Xbox fans treat this like a major victory instead of prolonging the inevitable. I guess, sure, but I mean, you know where I stand. I mean, people root for their teams, people root for certain things. I mean, I see the writing on the wall. I've seen it for many years ahead of time. So we'll see what happens. Travis isn't okay. The new Star Wars teaser is sick. What, for Ahsoka show? I haven't watched it yet. Xbox will be closing soon. Done. Next topic. Never hear the name Activision again. It'll be too soon. Well, you're going to hear it a lot because Activision is not going bye-bye. It's just being bought by Microsoft. All right. That's the first story. Again, not a stock expert, but if you have stock, call your people that you know and find out what the best option is for you. The next story we're going to talk about is Sony's investing $2.1 billion in gaming R&D, focusing on live service. Real quick on a point, because of $2.1 billion they're investing in R&D focusing, right? I was having a conversation the other day on Discord with somebody, and they were talking about, what would I have done with if I didn't buy Activision Blizzard as Microsoft, what would I do? And I said, well, I would take that $68.7 billion. I mean, and I put it in a very generic form, but I said they could have taken that money, Microsoft, and they could have invested that money into basically 340 different games, studios, the size of what Spider-Man or Last of Us or a game that cost over $200 million to make. They could have invested that money into companies over the next 5-6 years to make actual games with studios. They could have literally opened up a studio, made the money, made the game, 3 to 5 years, pump it out, and then you would have something down the road. But instead, Microsoft took the $68.7 billion because they wanted to get in the mobile market. It has nothing to do with Call of Duty. It has nothing to do with all the other stuff. So, But if I was a business owner and I had that much money, I would have invested most of that billions of dollars into research, into other game companies, into studios making games. You don't have to make games that are the size of Last of Us or Horizon for $200 million, right? You could have made a game that's $50 million. Could have made a game for $20 million. Could have made a studio and produced a game and make these first-party titles and stuff for your brand. But that's not the way they went, right? So let's go to what Sony's investing $2.1 billion in their R&D focusing on live service. In a report published by Nikki, they revealed that Sony intended to pour financial resources into gaming research and development to tune of around $2.13 billion. That's reportedly an investment that's being made before the end of the fiscal year 2024, and it will account for a whopping 40% of Sony's entire R&D spending. That's huge, right? That's huge. Not only that, but Sony Group has also expressed the desire to pivot towards a model that focuses much more on live service titles. Now, with the article referencing the fact that Sony itself has yet to make a splash in live service games. Now, for the player, for years, PlayStation's bread and butter has also been a remarkable single-player exclusives, which have dominated the markets globally, but don't typically have much staying power, unless the sequels are released, of course. And that's partly why in 2022, Sony stepped up and bought out Bungie for $3.7 billion, recognizing that the minds that has brought the world of Destiny could offer something unique into ever-growing market of the live service game. According to a report published on Nikki.com, Sony plans to allocate a staggering 60% of its PlayStation 5 development spending in live service games exclusively for the year ending in March of 2026, and has also stated that there's also a grand goal in place to have no fewer than 12 live service games in PlayStation's portfolio within that same timeline. So within the next 3 years, you're going to get about 4 games a year of live service games for the next 3 years. Now, furthermore, it was explained that Sony's group also has plans to break into the metaverse in such more meaningful ways, exploring the avenues made by extended reality and making use of the studios around the world to drive research and development into space. Now, are you excited about the premise of live service games in the industry? So it's interesting that Sony, right, because this is what I said the other day, I would have taken that money and invested. That's what Sony is definitely doing. They're taking money and they're betting on, in the future, that they're going to take the $2.1 billion and do focus on live service games. They're also moving 60% of their resources, and they're also doing 40% of research and development right now to try to make these live service games as well. So 40% of the resources are going towards the research and development. 60% of their budget is going towards actual live service games in the next 3 years. They're investing in their company. They're investing in their studios to try to make better stuff over long periods of time, right? Live service will fill in that gap of that Call of Duty down the road, because if Call of Duty has made $1 billion or whatever, they're taking all their, not all their money, but they're taking $2.1 billion of their money, investing it in the research and development of live service games, because if it is a good live service game, it's a numbers game regardless. So if they have 2 live service games, one of them might make money. If they have 4, one of them might make money. If they have 12, they have a better odd. They have 2 or 3 that might make money if it's 1 out of every 4. So type of stuff like that. So they're trying to get as many live service games out as possible to start pulling in different avenues of, from microtransactions to subscription models to battle passes to whatever, but it's all going to be first party type of stuff for Sony, which is a smart move. Okay. Let me see what you guys are saying. What's going on, Robert Jones? Live service, of course, what Sarge says. Plus, is everyone putting their eggs in a basket with a hole in it? Nobody likes live service. Nobody? No, that's not true. There's a lot of people that do like live services, but there's a lot of games that don't do live service correctly. And I think that's where you're getting confused if people don't like live service. There's more people. There could be 10 live service games, and one of those games, maybe 2 of those games, is doing live service correctly, right? Now, doesn't mean they're doing it correctly right off the bat either. It could have taken a year or 2 before they started doing it correctly. But there are people out there that are doing live service correctly. They love that live service. But gamers hate live service. Well, anyway, who's a real gamer, or real gamers do? All right. Gamers say that they hate live service, but they don't show it. They hate it with their wallets. Exactly. There's plenty of people that like live service games. If you claim so, only live service that's not an MMO worth playing is Division 2. Wait, let me read that again. If you claim so, only live service that's not an MMO worth playing is Division 2. Well, that's not true. I mean, there's plenty of games that are not an MMO that are worth playing now. Sea of Thieves is a live service game. Works. Forza Horizon 5 is a live service game. It works. Fallout 76 didn't work at the beginning, but now it works. No Man's Sky, which is a live service game, works. And it doesn't even sell you microtransactions. It just sells you the game and keeps updating the game. There's plenty of games out there that are live service games that are doing it correctly. But at the same time, there's plenty of other games that don't do live service correctly. And that's what it is. There's so many games that are doing live service great, and there's more games that are not doing it correct. I mean, there's also people who like Fortnite, but I'm talking about real gamers. What is your definition of real gamer, Travis? What is your definition of real gamer? That's an MMO, Sea of Thieves? I was told by my friends who play it is an MMO. It's not an MMO. It's not even close to an MMO. Your friends, you gotta get new friends, Travis. They're telling you lies. PlayStation Phase 4 live service era. Phase 3 is PlayStation 4 single player. Last time I played a PlayStation, Dabstick says, last time I played a PlayStation game, it was PlayStation 2, Final Fantasy 11. Eventually switched to PC to never return. I don't see a point of using subpar equipment and then add the exclusiveness just to seal the deal. I'll never own a PlayStation again. But will you own a Xbox? You're not going to own a PlayStation or Xbox, Dabstick. Right, GTA 5 online, live service. Yeah, there's so many games that are doing live service correctly. I mean, there are. There's games that do it very good, and then there's games that don't do it good at all. And all the games that I named, none of them were MMOs. My definition of a real gamer is someone who wants quality and a good product instead of cheaply made garbage that picks microtransactions over gameplay like Fortnite did. But what about if someone's playing Fortnite and they haven't spent anything and they're only playing Save the World? Right? So you're lumping everyone that plays Fortnite into not a real gamer. You're lumping anyone that plays any other game that has a microtransaction, that purchased a microtransaction, as a non-gamer, which I just think is a really broad stroke, which is not a good thing. There's plenty of people that are gamers that are, in your definition, wouldn't be a live game or a real gamer. Then they're insane. I mean, they could say the same for you for what you're saying. But also, Dabstick, do you see the difference in that true pure blood console people that talk crap about other consoles, and then true blue people that are on green console that talk about blue console, or Nintendo talking about other consoles, or PC the master race? There's no difference. If you're a true PC and you hate on Xbox and PlayStation, it's the same as a PlayStation person hating on Xbox or Nintendo hating on PlayStation and Xbox, or consoles hating on PC. It's the same. It's the same across the board. They're making Sea of Thieves MMO? Not that I know of. An MMO classified needs 1,000 people. 1,000 people on a server. It's a massive multiplayer online. 16 people on 4 ships is not considered an MMO. Right? Destiny is a light MMO. Okay? There's millions of people playing, but in your server, your house that you go to for your hub, you only got like 16, 24 people in it. Right? It's not considered an MMO. Diablo is a light MMO type of thing, but it's not an MMO. Broad strokes are a great thing. Didn't you learn anything in art school? They're good for the base, but that's about it. When you want to actually make actual good points, you got to pull out the other brushes out and really fine tune your artwork. Just doing broad strokes on the canvas is not really art. But each their own. Right, Rose. That's the point I was making. Anybody that's loyal to anything, now obviously, not everyone's going to own every console or everything. If you're a person based on your financial reasons or whatnot, right, you could buy a PC and then that's what you chose, right? But to have a PC, and I'm not saying Dabstick did this in any way, shape, or form. I'm just putting a perspective out there of if you have a plastic box, it doesn't matter if it's a tower or if it's a smaller box. What I'm saying is, based on your financial in your life, you could get a console, but the console that you choose and then hate on the other console you didn't choose is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. I want Hogwarts MMO Lite. That would be. I mean, I talked about this in the past. I think Hogwarts would set that world better if it was like an MMO Lite Titan. Jesse Max says Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is going to be a live service, and hope the Rocksteady is a big task to take their first live service game. I wanted to play that game for the story because I like Rocksteady's story skills that they had in Batman Arkham series. But I'm a little worried about what the live service aspect of it is, because we all played Marvel's Avengers. Well, maybe not all of us. I did. And they screwed it potentially. I mean, not potentially. They did screw it up majorly. The potential was there, and they screwed it up. At least I'm learning things on here. When I first joined the chat, wouldn't have said that the online only and then the MMO. I've learned not that all online are only are MMOs. Yeah. There's different genres of different things. MMOs are, I mean, by the definition, here I'll look it up. What makes a MMO? A massively multiplayer online game, MMORG, or I'm sorry, MMOG, or more commonly known as MMOs, is an online game with a large number of players on the same server. MMOs usually feature a huge, persistent open world, although there's games that differ. Right, but I believe it's 1,000. I think it's 1,000 people on the same server, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Does it tell you? Yeah, virtual economies in there. Let's made that up to 100,000 people in China and Vietnam. Taking all aspects. It doesn't tell the players vast number of players. Just says vast number of players. I thought, and it could have changed since then, but an MMO usually has 1,000 people playing. Let's see. How many players need to make a per server? I'm not a programmer, but my experience working on MMOs, 1,500 to 3,000 players per cluster was a minimum. 4,000 to 5,000 was more normal and affordable, and it's also players were clustered in a minimum of 4,000 to 5,000, more normal, affordable, as also seen. MMO servers are rarely single machines, but set machine. Yeah, so anywhere between, before it used to be 1,500 to 3,000. Now they're saying it's about 4,000 to 5,000 on servers now. Right. This one sound here says MMO development team can include as many. Oh, development team. That's development team. Big average server MMO. Since a typical server can handle around 10,000 to 12,000 players, 4,000 to 500 active simultaneously dividing the game into several servers has up until now been a solution. This approach has also helped technical issues such as lag. So there you go. There's also mega servers and whatnot. Like I think was it New World or someone did a mega server? No, it's Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls Online has a mega server where it's like 10,000 people per server. Internet is so common now. In my era, you're on state assistance or make less than that amount of money. Comcast offers the internet for $10 along with a free phone and tablet. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have, there's people that make a lot of money and there's people that don't make a lot of money, right? I'm in the subpar category of not making a lot of money. My son just made his first paper airplane on his own without me helping. It's actually, let's see. Let's give this a test flight. Let's give this a test flight. We'll give it a nice little. You guys won't be able to see how far it goes, but we're gonna let it fly here in a second. Let's see. Gotta bend those wings. Gotta bend those wings. Hold on. Sorry, chat. We got important things to do. We got important things. We're doing a test flight here. Wow, that's a good one, bud. Let me see that one. That's a good one too. Oh, this one you got to make it more crisp. You got to make it more crisp. Where's your airplane book that you have? How come you're using this paper? Testing with these? That one's not so good. Oh, soft. Okay. Got it. All right. Thanks, bud, for showing me that. That was a good. The first airplane was good. Good style. Good design. Also, your average everyday Android cell phone has mobile Wi-Fi, providing enough bandwidth to support a live service game. Oh yeah, sure. A lot of people though go over their data. A lot of people go over their data, which is not even talked about. We did a report about 2 years ago that they were shortening the gap of the data in like certain major cities, and then people were being overcharged big time for their spending habits or their playing habits, I should say, on mobile devices when they were playing online games or live service games, even like Clash of Clans. They were using so much data that they were actually charging more for their data. I need that Xfinity $10 a month deal. I pay $300 a month. Yeah, we're about the same price, Water. I pay about but a little less than 300. A little less than 300. My ISP gave me a data cap last year. Yeah, and a lot of people don't talk about that, Robert. We have unlimited, and every time we do anything with our phone, we're with Verizon, and every time we try to do something, they always try to take us, and they're like, "Well, if you change this, then it's going to change your plan." And we're like, "No, we don't want to change our plan. We have unlimited data, unlimited." So, and I don't even use my phone that much, but if I always I want to be able to surf the web, I want to be able to watch the YouTube videos and whatnot. I pay for unlimited 5 gigs from T-Mobile. Honestly, hasn't been bad, and I can't take the router, but it's also in my car, and I have 5G. Check this out. I'll post a picture in general. All right. We're getting to the point that we just use mobile data over home internet. Yeah, they know that, and this is why they're doing what they're doing. You got this a whole deep conversation goes into like the phone services and whatnot. The mobile phone companies, okay, and the providers of the phones and the data, they all make so much money, and then they make bigger games or bigger storage. And then when the games are out there, they take more data to download, and they keep you playing on those types of games, the mobile phone games, for the longer you play, right? So if you're not on Wi-Fi, and people play on Wi-Fi, but then when they leave, they think they're still on Wi-Fi because people don't actually think about those things. Then they start getting charged the data. Then they get a thing in the mail, and they get pissed off and whatever, but they're already addicted to the game that they're playing, whatever game that is on the mobile phone. This is why the mobile phone industry is a 10 times more prominent than any other gaming in there. Now, going back to what Travis said earlier, like real gamers, right? What is a real gamer now? Gamers can play. We played Marvel Future Revolution. Yeah, we played the emulator on our PC, but we did play it on the cell phone. Most people, I would play it. I would play it in my Carline, right? Marvel, is that what it was called? Marvel Future Revolution. Yeah, and I would play it in the car, and I would look at the data that it was doing. It would just drain your battery super fast. Okay. Then you would also have super data, but I had unlimited, so it doesn't matter to me. But most people that play, they could probably play maybe, I don't know, half hour to an hour a day, and they would just burn through their data for the month easily in like 1 to 2 days. They would burn through their whole month. I see your picture you just. Yeah, it's a whole other business. Oh damn, you got like a setup like you're like a police officer, Dabstick. You got that whole setup going on there. Got a mini fridge? Man. I think $75 a month, but I'm also discount for my for disability. Just wait until everything is streaming only for $400 a month just to play games. Yeah, Water. And do you see that Microsoft and Amazon and all of them, they're all going to the streaming cloud service, right? Well, that's going to be more money for them as well because they can get around the other providers. They can do other things, get that monthly subscription, get that, you know what I'm saying? This is why they're doing what they're doing. I believe it's about 1 terabyte, which is I really hit bit still. I think I'm hovering around 800 gigs at this point. How do you look it up? How do you look it up on your phone? I haven't done this in a while. Was it settings? You go to data. Data. Under cell, is it under cellular? Yeah. Okay. Cellular data for this month, right? For this month, right now. Current period, cellular data. I'm at 948 gigabytes right now. 948 gigs. Come on, Kylo. That's what I have, and we're on the 13th of the month. Actually, I don't know when my I think we're actually our data. We might be closing in. I think ours ends at the 21st, so I'm almost done completely. I have like another week left. Of that, I have 300 gigabytes of YouTube. That's a lot for cellular. I was talking home internet. My home internet's even worse than my cellular. But I don't have data cap. I don't have data cap. Yeah, I have a lot. And that's just my phone. Right? That's just my phone. Yeah, well, Titan, that's what I do. Right? I'm constantly if I could insert a neurochip into my brain where I can just download it instantly and learn everything like that, that would be amazing. Okay? If the downfalls though I like shit myself or piss myself every time I blink, then I don't want it. Right? But for YouTube, I constantly put stuff on. So while I'm running around the house, I'll have an earbud in my ear, taking care of my kid. I'm doing chores around the house, doing chores around the farm. All right. And basically I'm listening to things at 1.5 speed, and I'm just educating myself on information, whatever it is. If I'm listening to, business stuff, if I'm listening to podcasts, if I'm listening to just entertainment things, if I'm listening to a comedy, Just everything is audio form in my brain, in my skull. I pay for YouTube Premium so I can do the audio stuff. So I don't have to keep my phone, on. So when you lock it, you just do the audio stuff. I'm constantly learning and taking stuff in. All right. I'm only at 12 gigs for mobile and the mostly YouTube. I play most things that are 144p because I actually watching the screen. Yeah, I do watch it, but what I'll do is like if I'm prepping stuff in the kitchen, I have this magnet thing. I just shove my phone on, and I have, it's like TV in the background type of thing. Well, it's going to happen in the future, Travis. Think about the Matrix, right? Like if you could just download Kung Fu instead of going to a place and learning Kung Fu, we'll have these conversations in the future. We'll be like, "You're not a real Kung Fu master. I learned for 10 years or 15 years and did all the stuff." And someone's like, "Well, I downloaded it in 10 seconds." You're like, "You're not a real Kung Fu master, but I know more than you now." You know what I mean? These will be actual conversations in the future. Yeah, when people complain about ads, I don't have ads. I'd rather pay the $11 or whatever it is a month. I get my money's worth out of it. Yeah, no. I won't do that. If the skill is worth learning, you learn it. Yeah, but if you can learn it instantly, right, Travis? If I can learn it instantly, like all of a sudden I have a problem in the house, I need to fix something. I download it. Instead of watching a YouTube video, I download it into my brain. Now I know how to fix it. Obviously, you still need the tools and whatnot. So I don't know if you want to be a plumber, but you have no plumbing tools, or you want to be a wood craftsman, but you have no craftsman tools to be a woodsman, like a wood crafter. You would still need to go to the store and spend tens of thousands of dollars, where an actual wood master built up over time has those skills that he learned and also has the tools for that job. But you didn't learn it as soon as the chip fries, you will lose it. Sure, that's if your chip fries. But then there'll be a backup chip, right? So you would have a neuro chip and a backup chip. Take it out of your ass, and then I don't know. I'm just saying. That's what it would. That's what it would be. Basically, it would be your phone. Like right now, if you don't know something, what do? You look it up, right? And you either go to Google and do a search, and you find it, then you read it, and then now you know it, okay? But if you don't know something, like I've never built a chicken coop before. I was like, let me build a chicken coop. Let me go to YouTube. How to build a chicken coop. What's the best ways to build a chicken coop? Boom, boom. Watch a video, watch a couple videos, watch a couple things, see what I have to do. Boom. Build a chicken coop, right? I'm not a master, but I learned it because I looked up something on YouTube, right? Now take that ability and now put it in a neuro chip, and your brain all of a sudden searches how to build a chicken coop. And now you just know how to build a chicken coop. You don't have to watch a video to see a chicken coop. You just build a chicken coop. That's the thing. That's true, brain. The chip isn't storage. It facilitates the learning at advanced speeds. Correct. Right, because your brain actually is the storage. The chip is the connection point. Your brain is still storing the information. $3D print your chicken coop. It's way too big to. I wish I could show you. I built a duck coop. Actually, I could probably show you. I built a duck coop about 2 months ago. Never built one before. Never built a dog house either. My dog lives in a mansion right now. He lives in a mansion. Let me see. Do I have? Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well, but that's the chicken coop I built, or duck coop. Sorry, duck coop I built. Right now, it only holds 5 ducks, but didn't know how to build it. I was like, let me give it a shot. I built a dog house. I built a cat house. That's right. I built a lot of houses. What's going on, Chapter 8? Oh, I built a whole bunch of things. I would try a Neuralink after millions had it for years. No way I'm first. Oh, I didn't say I would be first, Jones. No way. No way. Like I said, if I got the Neuralink chip and the pros were to learn things faster, but now I like pissed myself every time I blinked, I wouldn't do it. The chip gets hacked, well, you're screwed. I mean, in what way would it get hacked? It would be weird, though, that everyone's attached. Man, we're going down a rabbit hole here. If everyone had a Neuralink chip, that means we could communicate with each other because you're basically attached to the... So we would never speak to each other anymore. Anyone that had a chip to another chip would be connected to each other, and everyone would know the exact same thing. Then it would come down to like physical skills to do something or whatnot. But education-wise, everyone would just talk to each other, and it would be like computers just talking to each other. Do your chicken eggs taste like chicken? No. But they... Have you ever had a fresh egg? Have you ever had a fresh egg, Robert Jones? I haven't had a store-bought egg 2 decades. Sarge's like, until that Neuralink guarantees you 7-figure income, and then you'd be the first in line. Well, that's actually one of the reasons they're making the chips, Titan. They're talking about someone that has, disabilities where they can't walk anymore, and then they put that in there, and then their brain literally fixes it, and they can actually start walking again and whatnot with prosthetics and everything. Like, obviously, there's always good and bad to all things, right? It's like a supervillain, right? Elon Musk is just a small percent away from being a supervillain. Same with Jeff Bezos, you know what I mean? Or they could be Iron Man. You know what I mean? We'll be less social than we are now. Would that be less social? Technically, it would be more social. It'd be weird to know that because you're being fed all the information all the time, Travis. Like right now, we learn stuff, even if you're not paying attention, like you're hearing things. But if you constantly have that thing in your head and you're just constantly getting information, it'd be interesting to see if it makes people go mad or, you know what I mean? He's Lex Luthor with hair. Jeff Bezos? No, Jeff Bezos is Lex Luthor. I knew someone that raised ducks, chickens, and turkeys. It was so much better than store eggs. Oh yeah, when you go and the way I'll describe it, people might get offended in this way, shape, or form. But if you take, when you look at someone, I'll just say someone young. I won't say if you look at someone young, their skin is very tight, everything's close, everything very, very attractive. When you're old, you're flabby, you're hanging down low and whatnot. So if you go to a grocery store and take an egg and you hold on one second, my son just came back in. Right. So if you take a store-bought egg and then you take a farm fresh egg and you both crack them at the exact same time, you'll see the store-bought egg, the yolk just kind of oozes out, right? And the color of the yolk is like faded. It's like an off yellow type of thing. If you take a farm fresh egg and you crack it, it stays perfect inside the yolk, and the yolk in the center almost looks unnatural, but because it is natural, it's like this fluorescent, like yellow. Okay, it's like a really bright yellow because it's fresh. It's so much better, and you can literally taste the difference in a egg from a store and a farm fresh egg. And that's just an egg. Now talk about other foods and stuff like that. Dabstick says, I transport nurses and doctors, and this one nurse has a chicken farm, and she just brought me 24 fresh eggs this morning. Oh, those are going to be some good eating. Chapter 8, right? We have our own sources. Like, we raise our cows, we raise our chickens, we raise our ducks, we raise our lambs, we raise everything. So I have literally, the only reason I go to the store is to, we can do milk. I don't really like the like goat milk and unpasteurized milk, but I'll go buy milk, I'll go buy bread, I'll go buy like peanut butter and stuff like that. But like meats, eggs, vegetables, fruits. Well, fruits I go to the store, but we have our fruits, but not enough to support us. Like, my son eats 5 pieces of fruit a day. He's a fruit baby. Fresh eggs taste like chicken to me. Really? I don't taste chicken. Yeah, brains had ours. Yeah, it doesn't have all that other stuff. Like, we make our own like hot dogs and sausages and stuff. Delicious. Delicious. And we have stuff that we make and we have a store. Like, I don't, but my wife's family, right? Because I'm married in, right? They have a store, and they, makes all they make their own like seasoning and stuff. We sell our vegetables, our fruits, our meats, our we don't sell cheeses. We don't make our own cheese and stuff, but we have the cheese from other people that make the cheese, like other local farmers and stuff like that. Back to games, please. Making me hungry. Yeah, it is what it is. All right, so we talked about Sony investing $2.1 billion. We talked about the stock, about Activision. If you have stock in Activision, talk to your representatives, because they're going to be closing the stock down. So, fair warning there. I can't raise my own animals. I can't eat something I name, and I name them all. Yeah, you can't name them. You can't name them. I'll tell you a quick story. Chapter 8. When I first married into the family, or I've been with my wife for 21 years. Been married 13 next week. But when we first started dating, my father-in-law had a bull and a cow, and one was called Porterhouse, and one was called was it? I forget the other one's name. It's Porterhouse and something else. And I would come by and feed them and give them milk. You know what I mean? Like, just take care of the animals for years. And then one day I looked out in the pasture and I was like, hey, where's Porterhouse? And then my father-in-law said, dinner's ready. And he came out of the kitchen and then put the steak on the table. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh no. And he's like, time to eat. And I was like, where's, and he's like, he's right here. And I was just like, holy shit. Right. And I would talk to it and pet it and stuff like that. Completely different feel now. Like, we still name things, but now I'm like desensitized after years of knowing what happens. I'm just kind of like, it is what it is, you know? It is what it is. Sirloin. No, it wasn't sirloin. That's a good name though. Maybe we'll name one of our cows that. I watch a guy on YouTube, right? A vegan origin story. I watched a guy on YouTube who has his own farm. He was like a stockbroker or whatever, and then he turned into buying his own farm, and he names all his cows that he's going to slaughter, like, because bulls, they'll do what they do, and then they get rid of them, and they bring in new bulls, and so on and so forth. But he names them after dead rock stars. He names them after all dead rock stars, which I think is funny. Tasty the nugget. I'll eat them just fine. Chapter 8. I knew a guy that named his turkeys Christmas and Thanksgiving. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. Go on, Logger. Yeah. So don't name your animals if you're going to eat them. Just don't, either that or you're gonna get desensitized. All right. Third story. 7 years after hitting it big on Kickstarter, Battalion 1944 developers are offering full refunds for everyone. So, more than 7 years after finding major success on Kickstarter, Battalion 1944 studio Bulkhead. Bulkhead's also the same people that are working on Transformers. Interactive is also, or they did work on it. Full refunds to backers regardless of the platform or pledge tier. Battalion 1944 is a World War II multiplayer shooter aimed to recapture the online glory days of games like Medal of Honor and Call of Duty 2. There was clearly an interest in such things, and the Kickstarter campaign launched with the ambitious goal of £100,000, so $129,300, and finished with more than triple that amount at $410,000 in total. Now, but did it not go as smooth from there? Now, a promising early access launch, despite some unexpected server troubles in February of 2018, eventually gave away to disappoint, and promised console release never happened. Communications from Bulkhead dried up, and the most recent Kickstarter update prior to today was the post on January 2018, and players complained, not without justification, that the game had been abandoned. Now, finally, in 2022, Bulkhead seemed to put a fork in it, and the studio announced at the end of the relationship with Battalion 1944 publisher Square Enix. Why is it always Square Enix? Get your shit together, Square Enix. And the release of the game on Steam as a free Battalion Legacy, and the official cancellation of the console edition of the game, which refunds available to anyone who backed them. Now, that was effectively the end of the matter until today. Surprise announcement of across-the-board refund offered to all Battalion 1944 Kickstarter backers in the email sent to backers, and helpfully shared the Kickstarter comments. Bulkhead said that people who want their money back will have to respond to the survey within 30 days. After that window is closed, the studio will manually send out refunds to PayPal accounts. A process is should be completed within 3 months and the end of the survey period. And yes, a PayPal account will be required. Bulkhead said it's also been advised by Kickstarter to issue the refunds outside of its platform, and PayPal is the best solution to ensure many people as possible. From many countries as possible. You can also receive their refunds. So if you don't have an account, you'll need to set up one. Now, there was some initial suspicion that the Kickstarter comments that the refund email was a phishing scam, but Bulkhead quickly clarified that it is legit, and the reaction since then has been largely positive, both from the game itself and the refund offer. So, and the refunds are apparently made possible by Splash Damage, which acquired Bulkhead, which is the people making Transformers Reactivate, in December of 2022. When we told them that we were still trying to save money to refund our Kickstarter backers, they said, we'll help to solve that. Creative director Mark Penny said that the refund announcement video, they understood how the importance of relationships has been between players and developers. Bulkhead CEO Joe Brammer said essentially the same thing in response to the Twitter user who asked why the offer was being made in the first place. What's important to us is how the public we made our community into our players and being gamers ourselves. Brammer said that, quote, this is how we would want to be treated. If you want much later than anticipated and the physical rewards were not delivered, this is not about the money. It's about the ethos for us. That actually goes a really long way for me. I have to hear this, right? Because it's 7 years after this game was supposed to come out that people paid their money, and they're getting a refund. Try to get your money back for a game right now that didn't come out or something and you're not getting your money back. That's gone, right? So this gives me great hope now that Splash Damage is in charge of the Transformers reactive IP. Okay, now obviously it's supposed to be a free-to-play game. Are they going to take advantage of the system because it's a free-to-play game? Are they going to charge $25 for skins and whatnot? That seems to be yet proven, but it does go a long way to say that it's about the ethos for them. Okay, he says, can anyone? Someone says, anyone provide some context on why this happened? Generally, when it's investment like Kickstarter doesn't work out, the money is gone. So if the game doesn't ship and you get your money back, it's a sustainable model for just about anyone. It says, we are refunding our Battalion 1942 regardless of the platform and pledged tier. So basically, Splash Damage is banking, banking on paying these people's money back, which I think is straight up cool, right? So this is not exactly a happy ending, but at least it's a clean one. Full details of Battalion 1944 refund are also available on backers on Kickstarter. So there you go. If you're a backer of Battalion 1944 and you never got a game, well, now you can get your full money back, and it's being funded by Splash Damage. So look, first impressions are everything. If I was a person that backed this and never got my game, I'd be pissed. But now seeing this and Bulkhead's, because Square Enix basically took the money, I guess, and ran, huh? Battalion didn't do anything, or Bulkhead didn't do anything with it. They're like, yeah, we just never did it. Square Enix, they just fumbled the ball, and they're like, yeah, we want to give your money back. So good for them. Good for them. 7 years of hitting a big Kickstarter, Battalion 44, making people feel better about themselves, getting a refund back on their purchase on Kickstarter. I backed some things on Kickstarter, and they fell through and never got that money back. I still can't believe they just closed that game. What, Battalion Stealth? Money stuff with companies and getting it back is like playing 3-car Monty with the blindfold on. Yeah. I mean, all of us can look at this, Travis, and be like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But it is. They're refunding money, which is very, very rare in this time. Right? Very rare. Star Citizen should take note. No, they're still working on the game. It's still early access. Don't worry, Dabsec. It's only been, what, 11 years? Has it been 10 years? It has been over 10 years, right, for Star Citizen? Star Citizen, let's see, Star Citizen. Yeah, it's been 10 years. 10 years. October 18th, 2012. Well, they won't get a check, Travis. It goes through PayPal. Epic refunded Paragon early access funds, and my dumbass didn't take the money. Oh, Robert Jones, what are you doing? Farmer says, "Fool me once, shame you. Fool me twice, shame on me." All right, one of the last things I want to talk about, which will probably take up the rest of the time. I saw Actman posted a video today, and I watched just a little bit in the beginning.
What's up, everybody?
And he talks about how bad, it says why Diablo 4 is so bad. And I like Actman's videos. So I was like, all right, let me watch majority of this. It's a 42-minute long thing. We're not going to watch all 42 minutes. We might jump around a little bit because he's got it. What I like about his videos is that he has it broken down into like parts. So I want to kind of like listen to what he says about Diablo 4, because look, I played the game. I like the game. Got 160 hours or something like that inside the game. Thought the campaign was good. Okay. didn't think it was like fantastic. I thought the sound design, I thought the animations and stuff, and the particle effects, everything is great, right? I got my money's worth out of the game. So obviously, I don't care if people talk crap about a game because each their own, right? So here we go.
This is the Christian man here, and today I'm really disappointed, like more so than usual, because Diablo 4 started off so strong. Blizzard hooked me in. I was invested in the story, in the gameplay, but I guess I wasn't a fish worth catching. I'm just a lowly sea bass in Animal Crossing, worth only 120 bells. I guess the reason I use this analogy is because I've accepted that I'm no longer the target demographic of Diablo games. I've realized that Blizzard ain't making these games for people with my kind of interests. In truth, the tastes of modern gamers has evolved and changed, and Diablo is more profitable than it's ever.
Travis, it's very simple. Very simple. There's the door. It's always open and closed, right? You can just walk your ass out, and you can come back later. It's no big deal. You don't have to make comments like, oh, another Diablo 4 video, another thing. Like, you can literally just back out. You don't even have to say anything. Very simple. You can even mute me at this point.
Ever been. But that doesn't necessarily mean the games are better than they've ever been. And I'll die on that cross. So yes, you read the title right. I don't like Diablo 4, and I think it's a bad video game. That is my personal opinion. If you enjoy this game, don't let me change your mind, okay?
If there's one thing I love,
wait, hold on.
it's the sight
I didn't see this far. That's great. That's great.
of blood.
You know,
In Diablo 4, there are
I actually think I like this game. I'm not
They brought Megan Fox, and I never knew about the commercial because I don't see commercials. I don't have TV, right? We don't have actual television anymore. It's with cable, and I don't see commercials on YouTube. That's fantastic, though.
Here to police your entertainment. You like what you like, that's fine by me, man. What I'm here to do is whine, bitch, moan, and complain into the ether like an
You do it, Act Man. Whine, bitch, and complain. That's what we do.
old man, like an ancient Haradrim who can't understand why everyone's forgotten the old ways. I really wanted to like Diablo 4, but the longer I played it, the more I came to despise it. But before we jump in,
I kind of feel a settlement about that, right? I'm trying season 1 because I'm a content creator and I want to try it. But I'm not looking forward to season 1 because I feel like it's the same thing I've already played.
the hell, this video is
Oh, he's got a sponsor. All right, we'll skip that.
custom budget. .com/actman to get started for free.
And now for something completely different.
So let's start with the positives. The combat in Diablo 4 is very fluid and fun overall. It feels good to slaughter hordes of demons with lightning bolts. Now, I didn't play much of 3, but between Diablo 1, 2, and 4, this one might have the best enemy design in the series.
And I'll agree with that as well.
Or at least the most interesting. In the early game, leveling up is extremely satisfying. When I saw this big skill tree for the first time,
That fades real fast, though. That fades real fast.
I just thought, I can't wait to max this out. And one thing I really do appreciate is that boss fights are more about dodging attacks instead of like the classic brute force. Is my number bigger than that boss's number? You know?
That is not the experience I had. Early on, yes. Early on, yes. But once I hit, what was it, 20... It was like 26. I basically could stand still and destroy the bosses.
Because it adds a much greater emphasis on skill and strategy. A lot of boss fights in D1 and D2 were battles of attrition that could get pretty tedious. Now, I played as a druid, and all the abilities were cool, flashy, and felt awesome to use. The game certainly fulfills the power fantasy many are looking for in a Diablo title, and I appreciate that Blizzard tried to return Diablo to its gothic horror roots instead of fucking Disney cartoon art style they came up with for Diablo 3. So I think with the core,
that was my biggest discrepancy with Diablo 3 when I played it. I only picked it up last November for $8, and I was like, I don't really like the art style of Diablo 3. It's very cartoony.
gameplay, they've succeeded. Now, before we get into the real shit, let's discuss some minor complaints. For one, Diablo 4 is a modern video game.
With all the new features that people really love and appreciate in modern games.
Which means it has to be always online just to shove half-assed
One of my biggest complaints about the game.
MMO mechanics in a game that basically has no social features and virtually no reason for players to interact with each other.
It's so easy to create a community.
What?
It makes Diablo more
Yeah. to get into the community that nobody wants to play. Like, how many of you guys have tried to invite someone to a group and they've accepted? I've invited tons and tons of people to just get XP and whatever else and run dungeons. Randoms don't. The community's not there for that. I've played with you guys, but just random people, yeah, not happening.
Part of a social experience.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Always online also means if the servers get fucked, then so do you. It's like Blizzard literally learned nothing from Diablo 3. You know, when I see someone lose their hardcore character after putting hundreds of hours into it, and they lose it because of a server issue and not a skill issue, yeah, fuck that noise. That's bullshit.
Yeah, when you die to disconnect for your hardcore character of a level 100, that is so. I would never play the game again. I would have rage quit at that moment, because if I die, I die, which is fine, right? That's on you. But if you die because of them, that's just infuriating.
Shit. At first, I thought it was pretty cool that they added a horse into this game until I unlocked the horse. I mean, it's so janky.
I have to admit, I agree with this. People wanted the mount. When we were playing the game, everyone's like, you gotta get the mount. Mount unlocks at the end of Act 3. And I was like, all right, beginning of Act 4. And we ran through the campaign to get to Act 3 or whatever, to get to Act 4, the end of Act 3. And then I got the horse and I was just like, it's more of a pain in the ass. My guy actually runs faster now than the horse. And my skill is actually faster regenerating, because if I jump off the horse by accident because they mapped it, which doesn't make any sense. Like, I would like to run faster. And when I run faster with my ability with my character, I press B. But when I want to run faster with the horse, I have to hit the trigger. And sometimes I hit B. And when you jump off your horse, now you're on a cooldown for 30 seconds and you can't get back on the goddamn horse. And that's irritating to me. Like, why? Why do I have to wait 30 seconds to get back on the horse?
It takes like 10 seconds to warm up its engine before it starts running. Like what the fuck? Yeah.
Like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Come on, giddy up. Giddy up, you bastard. Okay, there he goes. Okay, now on to the real shit. Diablo 4, for me, contains 2 crippling, fun-ruining flaws. Flaws so important that if changed, I would continue playing the game without question.
Okay.
Number 1, the difficulty. Number 2, the skills. Let's start with
I already know what he's going to say about difficulty. I said about the difficulty a year before the game came out. I said the leveling of the worlds were always, like, you're constantly always the best level, right? Everything around you is the same level, is the dumbest thing they've done in the game.
difficulty. So I stopped playing at level 48 after beating the campaign. Now, you can run down to the comments section and tell me what a casual scrub I am, that I need to play on World Tier 3, and how Diablo 4 starts to get fun and challenging after I beat the game and reach level 50. And if you're
I got to 51 when I beat the campaign, and no.
thinking that, you've just proven my point. Why do I have to dump 30 hours into Diablo 4 simply to unlock a difficulty option that suits my skill and experience? Well, because that's how it's always been, Actman. Yeah, you're right. The big difference is in Diablo 1 and 2, the games weren't this easy. And D2 had some extreme difficulty spikes. The base game is so ridiculously easy that by the time I got to that climactic finale in Hell, I was bored out of my mind, begging for it to end.
He stopped after the campaign. Water. He stopped at the end of the campaign. He beat the campaign.
After an experience like that, why the hell would I keep playing? I did end up doing the first capstone dungeon, and for whatever reason, that was like a light switch. It's like, oh my god, I'm actually dying to boss mechanics?
Yeah, that was the first time it was actually difficult. And you got gear checked, and then you had to build up to beat the capstone.
And not just cheap gimmicks like hard crowd control that lock me in place for 5 seconds. I'm not exaggerating when I say every single death I had, besides this boss, was from hard crowd control. The game had to stop me from moving in order to kill me. This capstone dungeon was like the highlight of my playthrough, likely because I was underleveled for it. So why is this game so easy? In Diablo 4, literally everything scales with your level. the cost of items and upgrades, strength of enemies, gear. It's funny because every quest has a level recommendation next to it, yet it's always the same as your level. So it's like, what's the point? This does provide some positive benefits. It makes it easy to play with friends of higher or lower levels. You don't have to worry about your buddy who's played for 600 hours, one-shotting everything and robbing you of the gameplay.
So I've experienced this in many other games, right? Many other games. Even in Diablo 3, Akuta Papa would play with me, and I literally had to do nothing. You guys watched it on stream. He would just run around and kill everything, and I'd be like, what skills do I need? And it literally just I leveled up 60 levels within, I don't know, an hour, whatever, and I did absolutely nothing.
Experience.
Right, Warframe, exactly, Sarge, comes to mind, where you get in and just they just destroy everything. You're like, I can't kill anything. That's not fun. That's not fun when you play. Hence why people stopped playing with other people and they played solo.
Another nice touch is that you don't ever out-level quests, dungeons, or the main story. So you can progress these things in any order you want. However, the drawbacks to the scaling difficulty are so flagrant.
Right. To get the quests that never end, fantastic, right? Because we've all played those MMOs and other games where all of a sudden you're playing the game. Okay, sorry for the screenshot there. Here, oh, that's even worse. That's even worse. Yeah, we'll just leave it like that. Where you play the game and then all of a sudden, it's just half the quests that you have in your thing. You have to just get rid of them because they're useless. They're worth like no points or barely any points.
The drawbacks to the scaling difficulty are so flagrant and obvious, I can't believe more people aren't talking about them. You understand what it actually means for the entire game to scale with the player's level in an RPG? It means that the challenge stays virtually the same from start to finish.
From start to finish, which is so dumb. So dumb. Water, him only going to level 48 and the points that he's making doesn't make it invalid. Literally, I'm making the exact same points that I said even before I even played this game that he's making the same points to. Doesn't invalidate what he's saying is bad with the game.
Why is this a problem? Well, it's gonna take a good long while to explain, but if the only available difficulty option is easy as balls, then you'll be begging for the sweet release of death. Now, we're gonna be comparing Diablo 4 to Diablo 1 and 2 and to World of Warcraft a lot. While WoW and D4 are different kinds of games, the core mechanics that make an RPG fun and satisfying to grind, I feel, are the same. So let's imagine if World of Warcraft was more like Diablo 4. Picture this, you just spent a bunch of time grinding levels, doing dungeons, raids, getting the best gear, becoming stronger. You go back to the starting area and guess what? That boar you fought at level 2 takes just as many hits
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
to kill as when you're level 70. Would you feel like a badass in this situation?
Right. That's it's so weird to me that they did this during the campaign. Like I compared this from before we even played the game. I said it would have been interesting because the way they said that the open world, everything scales with you. I was like, well, it would have been more interesting if I played the campaign and there was like different levels through each of the regions. And then once you're done with the game, like sort of like Division 2 happens. And then all of a sudden the Black Tusk comes and then everything's your level. Like it scales to you as you go. But it's just so weird to me that the entire game is your level the entire time as you go through. You never feel powerful, okay? Your gear does the same damage, and you level up, and now it does less damage because the guy that now you're fighting is now stronger, and now you have to put a point in to negate the ability of what's going on. So it's like, I'm doing the same power. Now I put the power towards this ability, and now this ability, it's the same the entire time.
No, you'd feel like an asshole. Like you just got duped into wasting your time playing an RPG that fooled you into thinking you were growing and getting stronger. Now, sure, you'd certainly have more abilities.
Most casuals don't like higher difficulty, but the difficulty is the exact same throughout the whole thing. The entire time, Travis. There's no difficult scale. The only difficult scale is tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. And I didn't get my teeth kicked in very hard through tier 1, 2, and 3. Everyone's like, wait till you get to tier 3. I got the tier 3 and destroyed everything. Not until tier 4 did I get kicked in for about 5 levels, from like 61 to like 65. Once I hit 65, then but that 4 levels that I had to do, the 4 hours basically that I had to do to well, it's like 3 hours to struggle to get to 65 to then be super easy again. Like, it was just the same. My guy would just, like, maybe it's my build, but still flaws in the game like that.
Is at level 70 than 2, but the point is, when you level up in Diablo 4, you don't get stronger, the enemies do, and you receive a skill point to deal with it. So because the challenge is consistently easy from start to finish,
yeah, hear that again, right?
Skill point to deal Diablo 4, you don't get stronger, the enemies do, and you receive a skill point.
Right, you're getting weaker. So you start off the same, and then all of a sudden I level up from 1 to 2. Well, I go up to 1 to 2, my number changes, I get a skill point to put into one of my abilities, but the enemy gets harder. I get weaker. I'm getting weaker, and then I got to put skill points in to do all the stuff to be, but it's boring. It's not hard in any way, shape, or form. Whether I agree or not, if he feels this way, I guarantee a million other filthy casuals feel the same way. And if that's true, that's bad news for longevity. I can't tune a game to the hardcores only. Exactly, Big T. But it's just so weird. The biggest thing I said was the respecting about your where you can't just have loadouts and different things. And the second one was the scaling constantly going through the whole game.
To deal with it. So because the challenge is consistently easy from start to finish, I was basically playing this game on autopilot. And if I wanted a game I could turn my brain off and play, I'd grind RuneScape. But Diablo is an action RPG. I want action. I want something that's fun, exciting, and fraught with danger. And if it's got some spooky, scary moments, that's a huge plus too. This level scaling mechanic is one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen in an RPG.
Agreed. Agreed. And how did I know this was going to be this way before the game came out? I don't know. Maybe it's the Neuralink chip I have in my head.
It goes beyond simply making the moment-to-moment combat stale and repetitive. And you might be thinking, well, man, what about Oblivion and Skyrim? Well, that's a lot different because you have some control over the difficulty, and the scaling only affects the types of enemies you encounter.
Correct.
So it's a lot different. To be fair, I think Diablo 4 excels in its enemy design. There's a ton of cool creepy demons like those spider hosts and the walking ball sacks that spawn flies. The Balrogs return, as do the Fallen. Everything fits a theme based on the area it's in.
Yeah, those things are fine.
I like that. Enemies can spawn in unique ways. They unfreeze in the snowy areas or ambush you when you loot certain chests. Enemy movesets are flashy and fun to play around. Scaling fucks with the world and level design much more than you'd expect, because every corner of the game is now stuck at the same difficulty level. Therefore, no zone stands out or feels more challenging than the last. There is no sense of progression. Again, what if you took this scaling difficulty and added it to Elden Ring? What if you went to Caelid at the start and you didn't get your ass whooped by those giant dogs? Well, then that place wouldn't be as memorable.
That's a perfect example. I forget what the Golden Knight was in Elden Ring, right? You come out of the opening of Elden Ring. You come out and see the world. There's a Golden Knight. And in your head, at that moment, you're like, oh, I can take this guy on. He's at the first starting level, right? And then you get destroyed by him. And then you're like, fuck that dude. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to kill that guy when I get strong enough. It's exactly what you do, right? You have some sort of purpose to come back and kick someone's ass in the game.
The desolate atmosphere and red-tinted sky would betray the tone of Caelid. The land of Caelid would not have this stigma among Souls fans of being a challenging, oppressive area of the game, and that's what makes it stand out. You get what I'm saying? When you give players far too much freedom to explore an open world and you don't gatekeep any sections of it, then they end up having nothing to look for.
Here's another perfect example. Destiny's beta. When we played the beta in Destiny 1, okay? I forget what I forget what that area was called where the ships were stranded in the desert or whatever, right? You would go around the corner and there would be a hive cave there, and they all had skulls on them. And I was like, "Oh, damn. What's in there? I want to know what's in there." Okay? And you had to level up to make those guys not have skulls, and then you were big enough to go in there, and then when you went in there, you were still under level, and you were fighting tooth and nail, right? To beat them. And then all of a sudden, you couldn't do it, and you're like, damn, I have to get more powerful. It was like a driving force to get you into there, right? Now in Diablo, like every level, every region I go to, it's the same. It's just like, it's just another guy, and the mobs are so easy to kill. Chapter 8 says I'm pretty casual. I don't want it to be easy. That isn't fun. I wouldn't do Mass Effect on nightmare difficulty anymore because I don't have the time to frustration. But at least give me hardcore, right? Some challenge to it. The problem with this is you have to go on tier 1 or 2, right? And even on tier 2, it's pretty simple. And you can't just change the difficulty up higher if you wanted to. And then everything around you is always the same. It's always the same.
Forward to and nothing to go back to. It feels like there's no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing in the world of Sanctuary, and it doesn't matter what order I do it in, so it all just feels the same to me. Is this making any sense, or am I just talking out of my butthole? Butthole. You know how in Breath of the Wild, after leaving the tutorial, you could go straight to Ganon's castle? I mean, you'd stand no chance, but that type of freedom is genius because you're given a sense of progression in the world and the different zones. You're not supposed to be here yet, but the designers still let you. I feel like this is just like basic open world RPG design 101. They dangle a super hard boss or tough enemy in front of you and say, come back when you're stronger, bitch. There's plenty of examples. The anti-guy in Paper Mario, the skeletons next to Firelink Shrine, or the sword dancer in Tales of Symphonia. That's why going back to slaughter the Tree Sentinel was so satisfying.
That's it, the Tree Sentinel.
At that point, you feel like you've grown stronger
Travis, you said
and better at the game since he whooped your ass. And it's that feeling of growth and accomplishment that I tend to chase in RPGs. Unfortunately, in my 30 hours of playing Diablo 4, I never once had that feeling. These types of difficulty spikes, they just give me something to look forward to. I need a challenge I can't beat yet, or a super difficult optional boss thrown in my face, a forbidden area I can't access yet. That's what inspires me to grind and get better gear, to see more of the game, right? If you brought Diablo 4's version of scaled difficulty to other RPGs, you'd see how fucking atrocious it is. Like I said, I did the first capstone dungeon at level 48, so I was 2 levels below the recommended, and after 30 hours, like, this was the challenge I'm looking for. The boss is well designed. Dying to him made me pissed. I felt some tension every time I got close to killing him and was running low on healing potions. My point is, why did I have to beat the game to start being challenged by it? Remember how simple Diablo
Right. Why do you have to beat the campaign to feel challenged by it?
1 was? There were 16 levels, and each one got progressively more difficult and was filled with different and tougher enemies. The soundtrack and visuals would change as you got closer to Diablo's lair and hell itself. This is a very simple way to convey to the player that the challenge was evolving. This doesn't happen in Diablo 4. It doesn't matter when you go to hell. The challenge will be the same. It's like, this is a game about fighting the forces of fucking hell. Slaying demons. I'm not the Doomslayer. I can't be the scariest thing in the game. I want it to be challenging. I want to run into some big fuck off demon that whoops my ass. Blizzard likes to remind everyone that
which is only the Butcher and a couple of elites.
Diablo 4 was going back to its roots. They say darkness has returned.
Well, the initial direction was Diablo 2.
The art direction for Diablo 4 is really rooted in this idea of delivering on the fantasy of a dark Gothic medieval world.
And that was kind of the initial art direction of the game in general, was darker and grittier, and Diablo 2 was kind of the inspiration.
We wanted to bring Diablo 4 artistically more back towards like Diablo 2, the much darker style.
Major redesign to make them feel more grim, a little scarier, a little darker.
And when writing this next chapter, we really wanted to return to our darker roots.
Everything's a little darker,
Everything darker? I feel like it's darker.
Difficult.
The story of Lilith and Inarius is the darkest story we've ever told.
What? Without me, you...
Yeah, no. Not the darkest they've ever told.
...would have no victory. And its cost will be more than you can pay.
It's the darkest story we've ever told.
You have done well, Marius. Now I think you shall have your reward. What have I done to deserve
it? The story of Lilith and Inarius is the darkest story we've ever told.
The dark tone is at direct odds with the gameplay because you're slaughtering endless hordes of trash mobs like it's nothing. You could compare this idea to Bloodborne or Bioshock or Dead Space, where the gameplay matches the tone of the locations and narrative. You see, the brilliance of Diablo 1's design is there are very few moments where you can let your guard down, even at the start, because even the trash mobs can surround you and kill your ass. This made exploration in Diablo 1 very tense and methodical. It was an action RPG, but it also felt like a survival game. But this whole aspect of surviving the forces of hell started to become more and more irrelevant when they released the second game. The issue with Diablo 1's design is that it doesn't fulfill the power fantasy modern gamers are looking for in a Diablo game. Like I said, the tastes have changed, and I accept that. Diablo fans nowadays want to kill hordes of demons that fill up the entire screen, and they want to feel like a badass. The problem I have with this is it makes most fights with basic enemies feel totally trivial and pointless. Because they serve no actual threat. Now, this doesn't bother me in normal RPGs where you outlevel enemies. Because of the scaling, that's not a thing. At some point, I realized that fighting random enemies on the way to a quest was a waste of time, because the quest itself will give me...
I kind of just pass them by. One, because XP is more in a dungeon than it is out in the world.
Demons to fight, so I might as well skip all combat.
Because there's more elites and stuff inside the dungeons.
In the open world entirely. You see it.
And then obviously they changed it now with nightmare dungeons, because they nerfed the actual dungeons. They didn't want the clusters of people that were in the of NPCs inside the dungeon, so they nerfed the dungeons. Then you find another dungeon, they nerfed that dungeon. And they're like, you know what? We don't want people playing in these dungeons. We want people to play in these dungeons. So they're like, let's go to the nightmare dungeon. So let's push people to do absolutely nothing throughout the entire game, of just kind of flatline throughout the entire game until you get to the point of nightmare dungeons.
It's not enough to make a somewhat linear ARPG that progresses in challenge through 5 different acts. They need to make a Diablo game into some sort of endlessly replayable grind fest in order to maximize player retention and justify a live service business model. Diablo 2 was more open, but it was segmented, you know? You couldn't just run to the Act 5 area at the start of the game. If they had to have the open world, I would have suggested make the campaign somewhat linear, and then once players beat the game, the world opens up.
Hey, imagine that. Imagine that, Ackman. I agree. Right? You could have just made the game, do the story, and then at the end of the game, once you beat the campaign, it brings it up. Are you sure that you want to open up and change the difficulty or whatever? And then, boom, the whole open world happens, and then it scales to you. Because at least to that point, I feel like if I was going through each of the regions and I was in level 1 to 2, and then I went to 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6, and then 8 and 10, and then 15 and 20, and I went to different regions, and I felt like I can't go to that region until I level up a little bit over here, then it would feel better. And then at the end of the game, it would open up into the entire thing, and then you would have the Hell Tides, and then they're taking over the thing, and then all the enemies of the same difficulty.
But there would be a lot more to it than that. The point is, when you throw hundreds and thousands of trash mobs at me, it trivializes the combat and therefore trivializes the threat hell itself poses to the world of Sanctuary. When I did finally get to hell, there was a brief moment of excitement. I was like, oh, fuck yeah. I'm gonna start seeing some crazy ass enemies. And then it was the same demons I was fighting at the start of the game. Even the unique bosses aren't all that challenging. Take the Astaroth battle. It's built up quite...
This was a letdown. This boss was a letdown.
A bit. I mean, you're fighting a Hell Knight riding a giant 5-headed demon dog. Talk about fucking epic. This should be a major checkpoint in the player's skills, and this guy should be a total badass. Instead, he's a cakewalk because of scaling difficulty.
Yep.
I made a video a long time ago about the most important thing every video game needs, and it's challenge. If I'm not challenged, you know, then I don't see a point. I don't see a point to playing the game, and that's how I feel about Diablo 4. I might have been willing to grind to World Tier 3 and deal with the game's lack of difficulty up to that point if it weren't for the second crippling flaw, the skills. Now, at first I was having a blast with this game, and every time I leveled up, I was super pumped to spend the next 5 minutes looking at the skill tree and carefully considering what I would put my point in. I felt like my playstyle was constantly expanding until I unlocked my ultimate. Once you do that,
and then you had all 6 abilities, and then that was it.
The game becomes extremely repetitive as your playstyle is set in stone from then on, and you're only investing points in passive bonuses and stat increases.
Who are you saying that to, though, Dabstick? Are you saying that to the developers? Like, the developers aren't playing the games themselves? Is that what you're saying?
Sure, you can respec and swap out skills, but you're only allowed 5 abilities and a basic attack. Once you max these abilities out, you can only move laterally, not vertically.
Yeah, there's no vertical.
You can't expand your playstyle or your arsenal of tools. You can only swap things out. Does that make sense? Yes, this limitation does create trade-offs and forces players to think carefully about what to invest in.
Yeah, but what to invest in, but the developers didn't put a lot of effort into the abilities and stuff to have tons of abilities and stuff to do. It's so minute. And then there's a meta.
And what type of play style they want. But I remember Diablo 2 doing this exact same thing and letting you have 8 abilities and
imagine that.
A basic attack. And shit, 2 weapons you could swap between. Shit, man, even the original Diablo let you have, what, like 30 different abilities and magic spells? I guess this 5-skill limitation in Diablo 4 wouldn't bother me so much if it weren't so tedious to change builds, right? If you get to a super high level in Diablo 4 and decide to change your playstyle, you better have enough gold to change it back in case you hate it, because there is no loadout system, which I think would work.
He's also talking about, the comment that he said there is a little weird because you do have a lot of gold. He's speaking from beating the campaign, not going into the rest of the stuff, but obviously, why continue if he didn't enjoy himself through the campaign, right? But he is right. Like, how often do you guys go to the vendor and buy something from the vendor? Has anyone gone to the vendor and actually bought something from the vendor because it was better than something that you found on the ground? I don't even go to the vendors. I go to the vendors to sell my shit or to break my shit down. I don't ever go to the actual vendor and be like, let me see what kind of ring they have. Once you're past a certain point, brain, stop it. Not in the beginning. Not in the beginning. You might go to fill in something, right? You're not going there to get tons of stuff from just being in the world. You might find a ring, one ring every like 10 levels that's actually better than what you have on you. Not during the actual game, though. You don't. One, you don't even have enough money to buy the stuff during the actual move of the game. You just go actually to do the events and then go gamble by giving the boons in. I found an 805 power pants. Again, you're in late game, Kylo. You're in late game. Did you find great power pants during your playthrough while you were playing the game through the campaign? No, because one, you couldn't afford it. And you just got stuff while you were playing the game.
If you get to a super high level in Diablo 4 and decide to change your playstyle, you better have enough gold to...
Like, look, he's talking about gold at his ranking is 599, which is nothing. But at that level...
to change it back in case you hate it, because there is no loadout system, which I think would work if you could purchase like...
They restock hourly and can roll high levels? A brain, but again, did you do it at a low level? Or did you do it at a high level?
Loadout slots, and you could swap those out at the stash. I'd probably keep playing the game if that was a thing. But right now, it just feels like Diablo 4 is insistent on restricting the most fun aspects of its gameplay. Is it for balance? Balance for what? PvP? Who the fuck cares? WoW lets you use like 500 different abilities. Balance for PvE? That's a laugh. We just established the game is too easy up until you hit level 50. Maybe it's to force players to make trade-offs, and that seems more likely, but come on, man. It's boring.
A main cornerstone of D4 is play your way.
Between all of our different systems, you can really create a custom character in ways that was not available in previous Diablo titles.
You're a liar! You're a liar! In the eternal conflict between the high heavens and the burning hells, Diablo 4 offers you more choice than ever before.
This too is false.
Because we have all of these different ways to make your own character, there's a lot more possibility compared to previous titles of how you want to play, how you want to build your character.
Liar! You see, I had this fantasy of being a lightning-throwing, shape-shifting druid. I wanted to have a hybrid between those two builds, but I had to settle for just the lightning. Why can't we have more hotkeys? Is it a technical limitation, like because they're making the game for consoles too? Well, that doesn't make sense because Dragon Age Origins, Fable, and other RPGs have had workarounds.
Look at all the bars at the bottom of that screen there.
for that issue.
Maybe it's the technology. Maybe it's too advanced for 2023 to have more bars.
But let's look at another top-down RPG that's also on console. Divinity Original Sin 2, one of the greatest video games ever made. You can invest points in the memory stat.
Look at all the bars at the bottom. What is that, like 40? You got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. Yeah.
To unlock more skill slots. There's no limit, and you can do this with 4 different characters. It's literally like that easy, or at least it would be if when you leveled up, you can invest points in attributes, but you can't do that in Diablo until level 50. What the fuck?
I hate that fact. Give me 1 second.
What were they thinking?
Like, I don't understand. Right? I play Division. I've played tons of other games where you just like take the skill point and you just put it in, right? I hate the Paragon system. I hate the Paragon system because it doesn't make it interesting to me that I have to choose. Now I have to go up this point and I have to pick, intelligence and then pick strength before I can get to the things I want. Like, just let me pick the stuff I want to pick.
It's literally like that easy, or at least it would be if when you leveled up, you can invest points in attributes, but you can't do that in Diablo until level 50. What the fuck? What were they thinking? Look, these are 2 radically different kinds of games, but the point is, as someone who's played a fuck ton of RPGs, I have a lot more fun with this than this.
When you put it in perspective like that, it definitely looks terrible, right?
Jeez, I have a lot.
I mean, you see all the bars
with this.
Hey, look at it. Well, it's because it's on console. That's bullshit.
Then this. The limitations on skills and the backwards-ass design of scaling difficulty have basically killed any long-term enjoyment I could have had with this game.
You blew it!
Diablo 4 is plagued by so many what the fuck were they thinking type of issues.
Agreed.
It's almost comical.
What the fuck?
You know how when PC players play a first-person shooter and they lose their mind if they can't control the field of view? That's exactly how I felt playing Diablo 4. Like,
this boggles my mind as well. Why they chose the camera so close, where all the other Diablo games were like farther back. I don't get it.
Bro, why is the camera so zoomed in? They got custom games in Warcraft 3 that let you zoom out further than what the base game lets you. Dude, zooming out is one of the biggest features they flaunted when they were promoting StarCraft Remastered. I just don't get it. Look, I'll show you, okay? Here's the FOV in the original. Character ain't too big.
Okay, looks good. Back far enough.
Big, looks great. Here's Diablo 2. Same thing.
Yep. Nice far back.
Even Diablo 3 somehow got this right.
Yep. Got just enough far back. Okay. All 3. Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 3. Dun, dun, dun.
And then
why are we so close? And then the best part is you can only zoom in closer.
Well, what the fuck? Throughout my playthrough, I kept spamming the scroll button in vain, hoping it would zoom out, but it never does. Wait, hold the fucking phone. You can zoom out? I've been playing for 20 hours, and now when I'm in hell near the end of the goddamn game, it can finally zoom out? Why couldn't I play the rest of the game like this?
Can't zoom out. The only time it zooms out is when you find a point of interest or if you play a world boss.
Why does it only zoom out at parts where the developers want to show off the level design? The level design's beautiful, by the way. Why do I even have to complain about this? It just shouldn't be an issue. Just let me zoom out. I figure we might as well discuss the side content Diablo offers. Well, most of it is pretty fun initially, like the dungeons, some side quests have interesting bits of story, and the strongholds are fun, lengthy battles. But these activities get
Strongholds are my favorite part during the actual campaign stuff.
old real quick. It's pretty obvious they had a quantity over quality mentality to ensure there was a lot of content for players to grind and complete. So there's 5 main areas in the game, and by completing the side content, you earn renown, which lets you unlock important things like extra skill points, more potion capacity. It's pretty much necessary to max these things out after you beat the campaign. Problem is, Once again, as a result of the live service, Blizzard intends to reset the renown you've earned with every season. Why is this a problem? Because most Diablo fans fucking hated grinding for it.
I don't know why they are holding on to the idea that refarming renown will be
They
fun.
want you to play the game.
I don't want to do the same side quests again.
They want
They're
you to go back
fucking
in and play the
annoying,
game.
and
They want
they're
you
a waste of
in the
time.
game.
I don't want to have to re-clear the same pointless dungeons for no reason.
You've probably seen people say stuff like, if I don't want to have to grind renown again, if I have to grind renown again, I'm not playing anymore. And I'm sitting over here thinking to myself, so if the side content is that bad, if it's so boring that you never want to experience anything like it ever again, then that's not content, dude.
That's right.
Those are chores. You're at the grocery
Exactly right. If I'm doing chores in a game, I'm personally done.
store right now, checking off a list. You know, maybe these activities are worth re-examining and redesigning to make grinding renown a fun experience so that players are open to doing that again. In the promotional video,
But there's a lot more people that like to do chores than me. So
Blizzard kept reiterating how much content there is and that players will never run out of things to do.
It's been created to feel full of things to encounter.
Never run out of things to do.
It's been created to feel full of things to encounter.
Listen to the words again.
Run out of things to do.
It's been created to feel full of things to encounter, full of secrets to discover, full of characters to interact with, full of stories to find.
You have so many activities
Feel.
that you might run into.
Diablo 4 offers so much more for players to do than ever before.
We've really crafted the world to feel like there's always something just around the corner to find.
Every single time you come back to play Diablo 4, there's going to be new stuff for you to experience.
There's over 120 dungeons to play through.
Not 120. There's 115 actually.
Find. We've got almost 150 dungeons.
Not 150 dungeons. 115
in the game.
There's going to never be an absence of something to do. It's really just going to be a way to keep coming back and experiencing more Diablo 4.
It's usually a red flag when I hear developers talk like this, because what they're actually trying to say, if you translate it, is our game is going to have endless amounts of boring, tedious, and shallow activities. They focus on the scale of content instead of its quality. They prioritize the grind instead of the fun, the exciting, and the new. I don't know, man. I guess I just don't get it. I don't understand.
No, here's what it is. Here's what it is, Ackman. I don't know how old Ackman is. I know he's not 45 like myself. Okay. As he's getting older, he's starting to see the wizard behind the curtain, as myself. Okay. Not everybody sees it. I think he's starting to see, right? Obviously, he has a lot of videos and stuff, and he does see a lot of stuff. But I feel like he's just getting to that point like myself where you become more cynical because the stuff that they're doing is not going to satisfy you anymore because you've seen it, you've played it, and you're just kind of like, okay.
And the appeal of having my progress and my character reset every few months and then having the devs try to pass it off as a feature and not a corrupt save file. You know,
Ford, I love the Goonies. Goonies is my favorite. It's like my spirit animal. I love the Goonies.
getting to level 40 and saving up enough money to buy a mount in WoW Classic was a big deal. I felt so accomplished after I did that, and that I could explore the world much more efficiently. But more importantly, Blizzard didn't take my mount away after 3 months and say, go do all that shit again, asshole. What's next?
But they're not taking your mount away from you, are they? I guess they are if you didn't complete the campaign. But if you got to the point in the story where you got your campaign done and you got the mount, you get the mount, right? Right? Like, they're not taking the mount away from you, are they? Please tell me they're not taking the mount away.
Next on the agenda, stats and loot, the bread and butter of most RPGs and the main reason people play them for hundreds of hours. On some occasions, you do get a nice reward for completing a quest or defeating a boss, like this amulet that summons a barrier, or...
Yeah, I got my amulet at what, level 14? and had it until I was like level 50.
The Mother's Embrace ring you get from Lilith, but these are extremely rare in the campaign. Now, it might just be me, but I find the majority of loot drops in Diablo 4 to be terribly unexciting, to the point where I hardly read what most items actually do. And at a certain point, I just walk past chests because they rarely hold anything of interest. I think the loot is extremely boring for a few reasons. Number one, it all looks extremely generic. Maybe it's because I'm playing as a druid and just the druid items are boring, but when I look at the loot in Diablo 1 and 2, it just looks way fucking cooler. You got like this.
Well, the reason, and again, this is just my thought, the reason the loot looks the way it does visually in the game, like this, is because, well, it's always online and there's a cosmetics shop. That's why. It's baked into the game. The game is baked to make, yeah, there's loot there and it looks good, but it's not like, oh my God, I need it. It's this way because there's a cosmetics store. That's the reason.
But when I look at the loot in Diablo 1 and 2,
there was no loot system, like no cosmetic system in that game. This game,
playing as a druid and just the druid,
there is.
Items are boring, but when I look at the loot in Diablo 1 and 2, it just looks way fucking cooler. You got like the Skull Shield or Arcane's Valor. I mean, look at the helmets and how colorful.
And look how the inventory system is, right? Where the axe fits in and takes up 6 spots. And now all of a sudden we're limited to what, 32 spots?
And different they are. But in Diablo 4, when I find a pair of boots, I feel like it's the same fucking pair of boots I've already seen
it probably is
100 times. Am I the only one who feels this way? Am I missing?
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Something? Am I tripping? You know, maybe it also has to do with the fact that every item takes up the same amount of space and the icons all look so similar that in my brain it all morphs together.
And that's a good point. And Ford says, I'm glad they normalized the spots, the loots that takes up some of them different sizes is annoying. But listen to what he's saying, right?
Same amount of space and the icons all look so similar that in my brain it all morphs together.
And that's a big thing, right? Design wise, in the past, why games like that had the different sizes and stuff was it was also making like a choice of what you wanted and what to keep. Now all you're doing is filling up your slots, right? You're just filling up your slots. You're like, well, I got 32 items, and now I'm going to go back and do 32 items, and I'm going to sell the 32 items, or I'm going to break down the 32 items, and that's just it. It like normalizes what you see, and then you don't really care about it anymore, right? Listen to it again.
Space and the icons all look so similar that in my brain it all morphs together.
Now I understand that that's just him, but from a design standpoint, why were all the other Diablos the way they were, and now it is what it is now? Because they're training you to look at certain things and generic wise, and then buy it in the cosmetic store. These are fundamental things why they changed it in the game. Fundamentally, why they change it.
There are very few moments where finding a piece of loot is genuinely exciting in Diablo 4. And part of that is because I'm also not a huge fan of RPGs that dump a bunch of meaningless numbers and stats into the menu and equipment. Remember how awesome it was in WoW when you got that first item that boosted your stats instead of just armor?
Oh, dude, 4 strength, 4 stam, leather belt. Level 18.
I think part of the reason this clip became a meme is his excitement mirrored our excitement. And that was for a belt that he found at level 18.
Different devs at Blizzard? Yeah, but can they not go back to the catalog of what they had, Quintar? To look at what worked? You know?
I have never been even close to this excited for any item in Diablo 4. When appraising the value of an item in an RPG, it really helps to understand the game's mechanics and what certain stats actually improve. If the stats and numbers are too convoluted, then players aren't going to
Another thing that this game did wrong was that parentheses that you had to go into the menu system to turn on to see that wasn't on by default, to me is kind of shady. Because then basically you didn't see the 11.3 to 20 and you got a 13.1. You just saw the 13.1 and you don't know what that is. Like, what is the max of that? Is it out of 100? Is that the best it could roll? You'd be like, oh, 13.1. You're like, that's not very good, right? But when you put this parentheses on, okay, now you know you have a 13.1 lightning resistance out of an possible 20. Which, why isn't that on by default? Why is that on in a thing? Like, who is looking at this in a mid-maxing type game and going, yeah, I don't care about that stuff. Like, this is everything that you care about in a game like this, is to know what percent that you have and what the max is that you can roll.
understand or feel any tangible benefit from increasing them, right? Again, you look at items in WoW, it's like plus 17 stamina. What does plus 1 stamina do? Plus 10 HP. Okay? You can easily wrap your
Right. 1 stamina equals plus 10 HP.
head around that. But because the sense of progression in Diablo 4 is so fucking skewed, now you find an item that's like plus 9 to all stats. And you're like, what the fuck? That sounds awesome. I'm only level 20. And then you'll look at what 1 point of strength does. And what does it do? Gives you 1 point of armor.
So everyone's like, oh, right, I got 9 plus every stat. That's amazing. So you got 9 points. Congratulations. You got 9 points of strength.
Okay, well, I have 3,000 points of armor, so this is worthless to me. I can't get over this. Like, strength doesn't improve your damage or nothing? What does strength typically do in an RPG? You want to use this big-ass weapon? Strength requirement. You want to...
So it doesn't overwhelm most players? That would be less overwhelming, though. Knowing what number it is, it would be more overwhelming knowing that you have a 13 and a 14, because think about this. If you have a piece of gear that's 14 and it's the lowest tier of your possible thing, okay, or it's the highest tier. So let's say you got a roll of 14 and the max is 14, but then you have a 13, but the max is 20, right? That's more information to not be overwhelmed, to be like, oh, well, that 14's a piece of shit because that's the lowest, that's the highest it could go. It can't go any higher. But now with the 13, well, 13's lower than 14, so 14's better than 13, so 13's garbage. But no, 13, if you level up, is actually higher because it can go up to 20. If you don't have that number, then you don't know, and then you're wasting your time.
Do more damage? Strength. Bro, even in Warcraft 3, the strength stat did more than what it does in Diablo 4. And that wasn't even an RPG. I've never played an RPG like this where the core stats felt so fucking useless.
The core stats are shit, so you can go do the Paragon board.
So meaningless to increase. This is apparently what the entire...
But if you don't know, you're not sitting there trying to figure out the numbers and people just play, keep you in the grind. Yeah, but how would that being deterred to put that on there, Ford? If the number has... let me back up a second here. Let me back up a second so I can look at this, right? If I can see, right? I'm just a plain old Jane person. I look at the number and go 3.9 critical chance. This doesn't take rocket scientists to figure out. Right? You find a piece of gear and you're like, 3.9 critical strike is the lowest, 3.9 of 7.8. If I don't have that parentheses and I'm just going through and I'm just clicking on stuff, 3.9 seems great. But you're not giving the tools for the player to play your game. If you're just going through the game, you might as well just smash the button and just put on whatever looks cool at that point. The whole point of a Diablo game, a point of a game like this, is to the stats. Even if you're going through the campaign, you have no interest of min-maxing afterwards, you still want to do the most damage possible. Like, this is better than just showing you the non-percent of the stuff. Be like, then why even show numbers? If you're gonna break it down as easy as that, then just make green numbers, right? Which they do, and just put up. It's a plus. It's better, and then just put it on. That's for brain dead people that don't want to think about anything. Green, great, put it on.
Stats, and you're like, what the fuck? That sounds awesome. I'm only level 20. And then you look at what 1 point of strength does, and what does it do? Gives you 1 point of armor. Okay, over what it does in Diablo 4. And that wasn't even an RPG. I've never played an RPG like this where the core stats felt so fucking useless, so meaningless to increase. This is apparently what the entire Paragon board is all about. Yeah, and let's talk about that shit. How do you balance a game that has skill trees this big by making each point basically worthless? Diablo 1 did it better. I cannot for the life of me understand what they were thinking. The reason I bring all this up is because so many of the stats on items I look at it and I'm like, well, this doesn't mean anything to me, or it doesn't feel important. League of Legends champion design,
because most of it's not,
design suggests that giving players fewer but more meaningful passives is far more desirable than a bunch of passives.
Like, see? Like, that's the number people are looking for. Plus 66. They're not actually looking. You know why people are doing 1 trillion damage? Is because they're actually looking at the numbers and figuring it out. Where if you just take the thing that says plus 66 and put it on your thing, it doesn't mean it's the best thing.
That offer minimal changes, because you're not going to notice most of this shit at all, especially when the enemies are scaling with you. There's so many different damage modifiers, you know, complex number calculations like damage to close enemies, damage to distant enemies. Well, where's the stat for damage to enemies at a moderate distance? Why don't you have that as well? Why is it necessary?
But if players see a 13 and later gets a 14, then it's an upgrade. But it's not an upgrade. It's a downgrade. If 14 is the highest number in that scale of your, maybe it's 9 to 14, and you got the 14 roll, which is a better roll than 13, but 13 is the low scale, and it goes up to 20. Well, you're gonna level up your gear, but your 14 stuck at 14. It doesn't go higher than that because that's the max.
Necessary to have like 8 different stats to calculate how much damage something does. Why do resistances reduce incoming physical damage as well as magical damage? It's just like, I just think this is like the worst stat system I've ever seen in an RPG. It defies belief to me. So again, going back to the original, enemies didn't respawn and levels were finite. So you were encouraged to kill everything, pick up every item, and sell the shit you weren't using. You could sometimes buy a really good item with gold, and in the later stages purchase elixirs to boost stats, and of course stock up on potions. But Diablo games, in my opinion, even the first 2, always had a way of making gold feel kind of worthless. That has never been more apparent than in Diablo 4. It's like you'd only have 2 options: buy the shittiest gear you'll never use for dirt cheap, or drop all of your money on one overpowered item. I hate having just...
How much money did he have there? He's got 891,000. Okay.
Never use for dirt cheap, or drop all of your money on one overpowered item. I hate having just these 2 choices. So when you keep checking the shop inventory in Diablo 4 and it's never anything good, or it's something that requires you to drop all your money so you can't respec, you just stop checking. This blows my mind. The entire concept of purchasing items and equipment in an RPG is superfluous. That's a big fucking problem. I never once in my entire playthrough purchased a piece of equipment from a store. You know, sure, I did things like upgrade my potions or craft elixirs or upgrade my gear, but I never bought anything. In fact, this item has more item power, but the ring I currently have equipped has higher resistances.
Right. Right? That's the thing, right? Great. I'm going to buy this for 491. It's going to cost me 256,000 gold. and I get this, but it has less, right? I don't know if he upgraded his rings at all, right? But it has less everything. Now, obviously, if you level it up, it should have more, but I think rings only go up by 10. So technically the 16 would go up to 26, but the 18 would go up to 28. Yet the power item level is 36 compared to 491.
So, like, why the fuck would I ever?
Oh, so he did level up. In his example, he should buy that ring. He should buy that ring because if he levels that up, it would be 26, which would be 8 higher than what he already has. Right? Let me go
This
up close
item
again.
has more item power, but the ring I currently have equipped has higher resistance.
But he leveled up. He upgraded this 3 times. I didn't see that, right? He upgraded this 3 times. So this is a crappier ring than the one from the vendor. Okay? So if he upgraded this ring from the vendor, it would be at 26. Right? So this, if he leveled it up 3 times, I think it goes up by 10, if I'm not mistaken. Right? So it would go up to 26.3, right? For the lightning resistance and the fire resistance, where the 18.5 is literally, that's it. That's maxed out. Can't go any higher than that.
So, like, why the fuck would I ever buy this? Or that? Or that? Imagine creating an RPG where the in-game currency feels worthless. At one point, I stopped trying to pick up gold entirely if it was 2 seconds out of my way. And again, because the value of items scales and
I think that's a bigger problem, though. If you just start to run through everything and don't want to pick it up, I don't think you want to play the game anymore. You know what I mean?
everything is progressively getting more and more expensive, I feel like I'm only able to afford 1 or 2 items at any particular store. So I'm not about to drop all my cash on something that I'm just going to end up outscaling in an hour or 2.
True.
I think you've royally fucked up the in-game currency when taking 3 seconds to double back and pick up a pile of gold feels like a waste of time.
Well, don't worry, Ackman. They'll sell you a pet later to pick up your gold for you.
Many facets of this game feel superfluous to me, and I'm not saying they are superfluous, that's just how they feel to me. So in a nutshell, my playstyle eventually developed into, okay, I'm skipping chests because those are worthless. I run through all combat in the open world because it's unnecessary.
I agree with that. You don't really have to kill anything in the open world. You do because, I don't know, just because you see them and you're like, I want to kill them and destroy things. That's what your brain wants to do. It's like a dopamine hit.
Gold isn't in my path. I don't go back for it. I skip through sections of dungeons so I can complete them faster. I skip dialogue and side quests so I can grind the renown faster. I don't go into the cellars anymore. And it's just like, dude, I'm just skipping the game.
That seems like a fundamental problem personally for him, where he's not even enjoying the game anymore. He feels like it's a slog. He feels like he's seen the wizard, right? My analogy of the wizard, he's seen the wizard and he's just kind of done with it.
I'm just skipping past all this shit. This is the game. All right, Diablo 4, you've got one last chance to redeem yourself, and that's with this story. Is it any good? Well, I'm pleased to say that the opening cutscene is pretty fucking awesome. It begins with some grave robbers who are in way over their heads. They stumble across a power, the likes of which they can't even comprehend. And immediately the game establishes that sense of terror and fear that was sorely lacking in Diablo 3. Then your character arrives in
Balls
a
of
town,
Torment.
you clear a dungeon of demons out for them, you head back and start celebrating with the townsfolk when all of a sudden, oh shit, you're poisoned. This guy brings you to a shack where they perform some kind of satanic human sacrifice ritual, and it's like, okay, all right. You got me invested. So while there are some decent moments here and there, after the introduction, the story takes a fucking nosedive, like Amelia.
I just realized I have the exact same dresser drawer than him. I have this exact same furniture in my house.
Earhart. The beginning and end of Diablo 4 are the game's strongest parts, narratively, likely because there are only 2 pre-rendered cutscenes that sandwich the rest of the story. Almost everything that happened in the middle is just a blur to me, which is strange because the setup for the plot is very interesting. You've got Lilith and Inarius and
This is more about the story stuff. I don't think he talks about anything else. This is all story. Yeah. Let's skip this to the conclusion.
Outside the characters in the main story, most of the people who inhabit Sanctuary aren't memorable or important at all. And therefore, neither is Sanctuary itself. I don't know, man. The scaling difficulty and restrictive skill trees make the core gameplay feel extremely easy, boring, and repetitive, and with some slight changes that they'll probably never do, would improve the game vastly. The loot is uninteresting. Most of the game's content is shit I just ended up skipping trying to get to the fun part, but I never really got to the fun part. In the end, for all of Blizzard's efforts to make Diablo 4 a massive open world game with tons of replayability, content, and depth, it ends up being no deeper than the puddle in my backyard. And that is why Diablo 4 is so bad.
I agree with a lot of his points. I do. I agree with a lot of his points. I do think the scaling in the game is bad. I do think the loot could be better. Obviously the inventory management and stuff like that. But doesn't make it a bad game. It's not a bad game. I think overall, if you're getting this game for a Diablo, right, where you're mid-maxing for hundreds of hours, this is less of a game than the past. I think Diablo did it better in the other past games, but it looks better in this, right? Visually, it looks better, but they've done better things in the other Diablo games than this. Now, if you're playing the game just the story and campaign, you pay $70 for this game, and then you go through and it takes you, you play up to just the campaign, then you put the game down. Do I think it's worth it? I do. I think, but with the 5 different classes, not mid-maxing past the campaign, just play the game for your druid or barbarian or necro or sorcerer or rogue. I think you get your money's worth out of it. I had fun for the time being that I played. Once they mentioned the season type thing, and then my Eternal Realm character didn't matter, for me personally, it kind of deflated what I was doing. And there was no point to go to 100 except for like 5 years from now, I'll be like, hey, 30, did you play Diablo 4? Yeah. Did you get to 100? No, I didn't get to 100. It's that conversation passing where I beat the game, but leveled up to 79 or 80. And that was it. I enjoyed my time, but I didn't have the drive to like go and play an additional 35, 40 hours to get to 100 to beat Lilith, to have that achievement done or whatnot. Just didn't care at that point. The seasons might bring me back, but for what I saw of the seasons, it doesn't sound like it's going to bring me back. But I'm going to play it regardless, so I can give you my thoughts and whatnot on it. And even past, like, if it's like 10 hours in, or maybe I have to do 20, 30 hours, I'll put it in because I'm a content creator. But I can see 100% if someone at the hour 5 or hour 10 is like, this game is boring, and they put it down, I can totally see that. Big T says, and he got that point before level 50. Imagine the casual that doesn't even need to get need to create content. This is not a good sign for many reasons. Yeah, the game, like I said, it's not a terrible game. In his perspective, it is a bad game, but he's also comparing it to the other Diablos in the past that he's played, where if you just play this as solo, you're a casual player, you've never played Diablo before, I think you'll like the game for what it is, because you don't know what you don't know, right? Sort of like what was it Titan? No, it was Ford. Like, most people that play the game don't know that they're missing out on the gear, and he has a point there, right? If you don't know, you don't know. But if you do know, if you played Diablo 1, you played Diablo 2, you played Diablo 3, you look at this and go, well, they did it better over here. This is not as good. But if you're brand new to the franchise and you're brand new to Diablo, you're going to play it and you're going to be like, oh, that was a lot of fun. That was a good game, because you don't know what you don't know. It's interesting. Let me put Ackman's in the description, because we obviously, he doesn't need my help. He's got 1.74 million people. Let's see. Stream. Go give it a like. If you guys want to go watch the rest of it where he talks about the story, head on over there. You should head over there anyway. In the description down below, I updated it. Ackman, click on that, go to his channel, and click on a like for watching. Since you didn't watch it through him and you watch it through me, it helps him keeping content coming and whatnot. So On today's show, we talked about Sony investing $2.1 billion in gaming research and development, focusing on live service games. We talked about 7 years after hitting the big Kickstarter, Battalion 1944 developers are offering full refunds for everyone. We talked about Xbox. The deal could be closing soon, and Activision Blizzard is going to be leaving the stock exchange. So do what you may if you want to move your stuff, it merges into Microsoft, or if you want to sell your Activision stock. Again, not a consultant, not in any way, shape, or form, just reading the news, letting people know what's going on. We talked about a couple of little random things in the middle, and then we talked about, or we watched Actman and talked about Diablo 4, why he thinks it's a bad game and the fundamental problems with Diablo. If you guys liked any of this content this morning, please make sure you hit that like button down below. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, you can hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, you can hit the membership button as little as $5. Sarge says you don't have to move it to sell out to your account automatically. Wait, you don't have to move it. It sells out to your account automatically. What do you mean it sells out to your account automatically? So if they pay out at 90, they're just going to pay you, or do you have an option to keep it and then it goes into the Microsoft? Like it'll convert like 3 shares into 1 Microsoft share. I don't know how that works. I'm asking. You don't have to move it. It sells out to your account automatically. I don't know if that's true. If it sells out to your account automatically. I think what they would do is if you want to hold it, you can hold it, and then they would just do a 3-to-1 swap or whatever it is, 3-point whatever it is. I want to make sure that stock is done. The value of those stocks is liquidated and moved to your account. That's not what I looked up and read. When I looked it up and read, it says when it's delisted like that, you can still hold on to it, but selling it would be a lot harder. And then another option was that the stock moves into Microsoft shares. But again, I don't have stock in it, so I don't care. It's not delisted? I mean, that's what it said in the articles I read, Sarge. Hold on. The announcement by NASDAQ spotted that Eurogamer confirmed that the publisher will be removed from the NASDAQ 100 index, and the NASDAQ 100 index, weight index, sector index, and so Activision, in preparation for its proposed acquisition by Microsoft, Activision Blizzard will be delisted from the NASDAQ stock exchange. Okay. Let's go. What does delisting in the stock exchange, the stock market? Delisting is a removal of a listed scrutiny from a stock exchange. The delisting of a can be voluntary or involuntary, and usually results when a company ceases operation, declares bankruptcy, merges, or does not meet listing requirements, or seeks to become a private company. So what happens to my money if a stock is delisted? Though delisting does not affect your ownership of shares, may not hold any value post-delisting. Thus, if any stock that you own gets delisted, it's better to sell your shares, and you can either exit the market or sell it to the company when it announces buyback. So again, I am not an expert. I just went down the rabbit hole. They said it's being delisted. So I take the delisted, find out what delisting means, and then what happens when something is delisted. That's the information I'm reading. I'm not an expert in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to have an argument about this or anything. I just reading what it says, and they say it's being delisted. So Talk to your pros. When I collect my money, we'll tell you. Okay? And if you can't collect your money, you also let me know. Because the articles are saying it's being delisted. So just make sure you don't get screwed. That's all I'm saying. You're waiting instead of selling? You're asking. I don't have stock. I don't have stock in Activision. So I would assume that if you keep it, it would get merged into Microsoft. And then they would give you the shares. So you would get paid out based on what the stock is. But they would take that money instead of paying you out if you didn't want to sell. And they would give you, let's say it's $90 for Activision. And then you wanted to buy one share. If you had one share of Activision, then it would move over to Microsoft and you would get a percentage of that. Right. That's what I'm saying. I hear it transfers to Microsoft too. Correct. It would transfer to Microsoft. So you wouldn't get paid. They would just tell you that it's moving over. So if you had 3 shares, okay, well, actually, would you have to have because I think it's like 300, like 300 and something for Microsoft. It's $90 for Activision. So if you had 3 shares per se, let's just say it was even 3-1, then you had 3 shares of Activision, then you would get 1 share of Microsoft. Okay, Sarge. Again, I'm not gonna. I don't know. I'm not arguing. I'm just reading what the article's saying. What one article says, and then I follow the trail of what all that stuff means, and about transferring over. I don't think they'll like you have to sell it. If you don't sell it, it gets transferred to Microsoft, and then they will give you a ratio of whatever it is. But on that end, again, not an expert at stocks. Don't listen to me. Just reading the news. You guys have a great rest of your day. Don't forget, tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, Generation X Gaming, a weekly podcast that goes over a few of the top stories in the past week. Rant along the way. Join me and Sarge tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, as we go over a few of the top stories. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.